Hello and welcome back to FantasyFootballFix.com on YouTube, the leading platform to help you build your squad value, improve your rank, and help you win your mini leagues this year in FPL. Tonight we're going to be covering a Chelsea defender who looks on the verge of a drop and comparing a few of the other Chelsea defenders to see if a switch could be on the cards. A Man City midfielder set to drop in price, so be wary if you're owning a couple of those. And also we're going to be taking a look and delve into the budget midfielders, with a few of them looking very close and potentially rising tonight in price. So we're going to be having a look at that using Fantasy Football Fix's player comparison matrix. If you have a question for any of our FPL presenters here on the channel, feel free to drop it down in the comments and I will definitely do my best, as it's my video, to go through every single one of those and try to give a response to everyone who takes their time to leave a comment. So without further ado, let's get into it and help you price change your way into that top 10k. And the first player I would really like to take a look at tonight is Mbeumo of Brentford. I'm really not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but do let me know if there's anyone who's French down in the comments. But yeah, whoever it is, the Brentford battle position striker hit the post twice in Chelsea's 1-0 victory over Brentford at the weekend. Mbeumo actually hitting the post 6 times in total now, which is an insane statistic for so far this season. I think only players else other than Mbeumo have managed to hit the post twice as the other second highest total. So yeah, very impressive statistic in that regard. Some people would be arguing he needs to improve his finishing a little bit. Others would argue he's just got unlucky. But either way, his statistics make for them very nice reading. He's third in terms of expected FPL amongst midfielders, priced 6.5 or less in value in the game. And he's noticeably in the same category, first in expected goals. Unsurprisingly, with that statistic, obviously, of hitting the woodwork quite a number of times. He's had 13 shots in the box with 5 big chances of those being big chances over the season so far. And despite the Frenchman being expected to rise in price tonight, which he is, and we'll get onto that in a minute, it's Andros Townsend who's actually the one with more transfers in this week, with 119,000 of those being for the Englishman as opposed to the Frenchman. So it's very, very interesting there that, you know, Townsend will have more points returns, you'd say, than Mbeumo, but it's actually Townsend who's not overperforming as much as Mbeumo. He's underperforming much more than Townsend, and those expected stats do show and prove that. We can actually have a look, and a very nice tool to compare two players in particular is this Fix Player Heat Maps feature that you can find over at FantasyFootballFix.com. And so I've brought up Mbeumo and Townsend here so we can have a look and comparison throughout that. So over the season so far, we can see they're quite similar in terms of minutes and stuff so far. Obviously, we can compare where they play. Mbeumo playing as that kind of out of position, as I mentioned, forward, up alongside Tony. He's often playing more advanced than Tony, actually, whereas Townsend a very more robust to that right-hand side kind of player. And we can also have a look at any kind of maps we want to. So we can have a look at the shot positions. Obviously, Mbeumo is looking like from some very nice positions there in the box, but we know where Townsend shoots. He can often produce a goal of brilliant quality from outside the box. So yeah, that's not to say that Townsend won't be scoring a lot of these ones further out. Attempted assist is also a nice stat to compare. We can see that, obviously, Townsend having a lot coming from the right-hand side, as you'd imagine, and we can compare all of that. But what I'd really like to look at is when we scroll down is we can see a lot of the defensive and attacking statistic radars. We can compare statistics so far in total this season, which is very nice to look at, and also average statistics per 90, which I find a very, very, very useful tool. Obviously, we can see so far that Townsend, as I kind of mentioned and alluded to, has had more goals per 90. He's got more returns per 90 in front of goal, and that's the same for goal assists. Mbeumo yet to register one so far this season, whereas Townsend with 0.29 per 90. But when we look at the expected stats, especially for goals, it's Mbeumo who comes in on top with 0.40 per 90 compared to 0.23, so almost double the amount of expected goals than Townsend, which is very, very impressive for Mbeumo. Obviously, it's kind of what you'd expect as someone playing as an out-of-position forward, but Brentford are priced as a promoted team, and that's why Mbeumo is down at that 5.5 price, and it makes it very, very impressive, and it makes him a really good asset moving forward, especially with Brentford's fixtures looking very, very nice, especially after they face Leicester this week in Game Week 9, after that in Game Week 10, and even this week for this fixture. Leicester overall have looked pretty poor so far this season. They seem to be finding their footing now, changing to that kind of two-front striker formation, so it might be a bit of a tougher fixture than it would have been in the first few game weeks, but I still think Mbeumo could easily grab something. It's been shown by by his expected statistics that if Brentford are getting forward and scoring goals, which hopefully they'll be looking to do more of, then Mbeumo has got a good chance of being involved in them. Shots in the box, he does top it, although Townsend does top shots on target, which is interesting, so perhaps being a bit more clinical despite Mbeumo being on top for shots per 90. And then obviously with all the creativity stats, it's kind of what you'd expect with Mbeumo playing as a forward this season. It's Townsend who leads the way for the majority, well, all of those statistics. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up, and that's a brilliant way you can compare two players very closely is by using that player heat maps tool. So feel free to go and use the links in the description. Go over to fantasyfootballfix.com and check that out. But yeah, Mbeumo is rising at 0.5% per hour. He's at 84.3% progress. So he's actually projected to rise tonight still, but he is not past that 100% threshold mark. So I wouldn't be too stressed about getting him in if you're only 0.1 off or whatever for your transfer for this week. Not rushing in is going to be very key, especially with Champions League games today, on Tuesday, and on Wednesday. We need to wait and assess those before making our transfers this week. It's more risky than ever, realistically, than perhaps maybe on an international break to go in and dive in and take an early knee-jerk transfer. Mbeumo, in terms of projected points, he's on 20.3 over the next 6 game weeks, and Townsend does actually top that with 21.2 over the same period. So Townsend in front on projected points. There are a few other midfielders in that same bracket, which I registered as 5.5 or 6 million below, who are in front of Mbeumo, which is surprising to me, actually. But yeah, it's looking likely, and it's looking good for Mbeumo. In my opinion, he certainly passes the eye test. He's passing a lot of the statistic tests as well, and I think he should be finding a way into your teams if he hasn't done so already. So he'll probably be my transfer this week. Maybe he'll be yours. But let's move in to the second player that I'd like to dive into today. And the other player I wanted to have a look at today is going to be Antonio Rudiger, who's a very interesting one and a topic of debate, as he only very recently actually went up in price. So very, very interesting for Rudiger, who, as you can see in the top left there, I appreciate it's pretty small, is looked to drop in price tonight. So obviously he featured in that same fixture, or didn't feature in that same fixture at the weekend in that Chelsea 1-0 victory over Brentford, and obviously missed out on that clean sheet, which was mainly down to Edward Mendy putting in a fantastic display anyway in the Chelsea goal. But Rudiger really appeals to many people as an FPL asset, as he seems to be the most nailed of all the Chelsea defenders. And though he may not offer as much attacking threat or assist threat as some of the other defenders you can see on screen now in the fixed comparison matrix, actually what Rudiger offers is just those almost guaranteed minutes, and that's why many managers were bringing him in. Obviously, picking up what seemed to be a bit of a back injury for Rudiger has put a lot of managers off, and a lot of them deciding to take him out of their teams, probably for the likes of Ben Chilwell, who you can see in the comparison matrix after his 15-point haul return, despite the fact that he has been pictured back in training. So it's good to put that out of the way. Obviously, he may well play in midweek. He has been back. He's fully training. So yeah, there may be a chance that Rudiger even plays in the Champions League, but you know, you'd probably hope they're putting it off, saving him for the weekend, and he'll be back to play against Norwich at home, which is obviously a very nice fixture and some very high prospects of a clean sheet there. So owners who've held on to him will be hoping that he'll be back and fit, myself included. Unsurprisingly, as you can see on screen, there's quite a few of the stats where we can look at using the fixed comparison matrix. Rudiger does not top any of them, obviously, with attempted assists. We've got players like Alonso and Chilwell. Obviously, with per 90 statistics, this would look a bit different, but Alonso's been topping a lot of them so far. And Azpilicueta, actually, in that second column there, getting the most touches in the opposition box, the most FPL points per million, so best value, you'd say, and the most goal assists, joint with Reece James, who obviously hasn't played that many minutes either. And a lot of dependent on who people are bringing in for these Chelsea defenders is going to be who's actually going to play. And so there will be a lot of debates, I'm sure, around whether Chilwell is going to be the one playing in the Premier League and Alonso will get more minutes in the UCL. Obviously, by the time of this video coming out, either today or tomorrow, whenever Chelsea play, we'll know a bit more about that and we'll have a bit more information to go on. But Rudiger, I just wouldn't really be taking him out. I don't see the point in doing it when you've got a Norwich fixture at home, unless he is ruled out and you've got 2 free transfers and nothing else to do. I don't see any point in removing Rudiger, certainly not in front of Norwich at home where he could potentially play. Despite this, he's the third most transferred out player this week. He's only behind Ronaldo and Marcus Alonso, who you can see in the comparison matrix. They're the only two being shipped out faster than Rudiger this week, and it has made Rudiger beyond the 100% threshold at 101% towards a drop, and he's still dropping at 0.3% per hour, so quite a significant deal, making him likely to drop in price tonight. So no other Chelsea defender outscores Rudiger in terms of projected points, which I thought was very, very interesting, and that's over the next 6 games weeks. But only Trent plus the Man City back four out of any defenders in the game are the ones to do that. So that back four being Laporte, Diaz, Walker, and Cancelo being the only ones, which I thought was very, very interesting. Remember, you can always use the fixed comparison matrix by going over. Link is in the description to that. As well as that, you can see all the other price changes that are going on tonight. And that about does it, realistically, in terms of the price changes for tonight. Not a lot of activity happening. So obviously, Mbeumo rising potentially tonight, potentially tomorrow. Rudiger looking like he'll drop tonight, and that Man City midfielder that I talked about in the intro is Ferran Torres. So if you're hanging on to him, then you might want to be a little bit concerned. However, obviously with the news coming in that he's going to be out for a couple of months anyway, most managers decided to ship him out probably before the game week 8 deadline alone. But if not, maybe jumping off now if you want to preserve a bit of that team value. Shouldn't really be too much of a risk as long as the player you're bringing in is relatively safe. So that is going to wrap up tonight's price changes. Remember, the price changes aren't an exact science and they can always alter very quickly. So the best way to stay up to date is to head over to fantasyfootballfix.com/price. As I said, with the price predictor, you can check that all the way up to the time the price changes happen very early in the morning. So at midnight or 1 or 2 a.m. in the UK. And so yeah, you can do that, or you can download the free app as well and turn on push notifications for that on iOS or Android. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications as well, and drop a like if you have enjoyed the video. If you want to see a bit more of me, you can follow or subscribe to the FPL Phillips YouTube channel. Link is in the description to that if you want to see a bit more of my FPL content. But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the week. That's going to be it for my price changes, but I'll catch you later on in the week for Eddie versus the algorithm. And we can see who came up on top for that. So I wish you all the best. I'll bid you good night.